So let's get started. So on AI updates, I'll try to do this in 10 minutes. The fact that ICLR submission deadline was kind of yesterday didn't help much. So that's the kind of international conference on learning of representation. It's one of the main conferences where we, researchers and network fans want to submit stuff. So there's been a barrage of around 500 new research papers published in the last 2 days. And I picked out, a few of them. And that reminds me just to say who I am, for those who don't know me. I'm a PhD student at KTH, and we use GANS. So part-time, I spend my time on researching deep learning, and mainly multimodal models, so models with just raw data, but also image, audio, and text into single models. And then I'm also fascinated by the term creative AI. So using AI techniques to do creative things, like in draw, in music, etc. And I do that with my consulting company. So that's the other part of my time I spent on consulting on AI in the projects. And then I'm founding a startup which will launch quite soon and will be public hopefully in the next few months. So update. So what has happened in the last 2 months? October, November. So first of all, Microsoft made a major realignment with a kind of dedication to AI. And they've been working on the research side of AI for a long time. Their speech recognition has been always state of the art. They're kind of famous for the ASR team, as it's called. But just a month ago, they kind of reoriented and made a public declaration that they're going to reorient the whole company around AI, which means AI focused on products. So they're kind of trying to find ways of how they can now set up their AI research in their own teams, trying to have them in multidisciplinary teams working together with designers, with managers, etc. They have started building custom AI hardware, so they're the newest in kind of the big launch, and also this new 5,000 AI division. And maybe just a figure kind of which shows that this is a general wider trend for Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple, is that they all have their own open source frameworks. They're all heavily acquiring AI startups. They're all offering cloud services, and they're also all dedicated AI and machine learning researchers. And of course, there are a lot of music, except Apple. So Apple, being a little bit different than everyone else, does things very much closed. They actually do have, their in-house framework and good acquisitions. They have their own research team as well. But yeah, that's kind of how things look like today. Other interesting news last month, a partnership on AI launch, which is a partnership between Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and IBM. And it's a partnership where at least it's part PR spin, as you all simply see the part, there's a lot of money also going to be invested in research on the development of AI and also the kind of things, kind of effects of AI on society to make sure that AI technologies do good things and don't bring us harmful things, and now in the future. Baidu also launched a medical chatbot. So this is the first big medical chatbot, which is actually pretty good. So not just a silly product, but this is already actually helping thousands of Chinese doctors right now to diagnose patients with all kinds of different kinds of diseases. And it's a bit like a chatbot, but there's very heavy amount of deep learning and technology behind it. So this is kind of the first in its kind, which is already really used in production in hospitals, our first channel. Another update, Stanford, which has its 100-year study of artificial intelligence center for a while now. And they launched their first report. So this is their 2016 report. I'll make the slides available. So all these kind of little thingies, hashtags, that's the links for where you can find the stuff. But we clutter the slides too much to put them on there. So that's a report which is kind of interesting to read about general developments of AI in society. Then MIT for Halloween also launched some nice things. So these are what's called generative models. Models we can train on data and then can generate more data. So this is models generated trained on faces. So train on faces and they can start to generate more faces, but this is a very fine-tuned model, which means they kind of let it know what are creepy faces, and people can help ranking the creepy faces, and this is what you in the end get out. It starts to modeling very creepy faces. Then DeepMind is partnering with Blizzard. So after DeepGo, StarCraft seems to be kind of new target, beating StarCraft. So interesting is that this research with StarCraft is really going on for 5 years, at least Oxford and some other places. But now it's a real partnership with Blizzard. With Blizzard actively open sources for this, make an API available for AI researchers on their platform. And this is the kind of data that we can play with. And so that's very fascinating. So I think now all the DeepMind, but hopefully soon to everyone. On that term, there's also Doom. Researchers have also started to open source a nice API for working with Doom. So that's the other a bit more simple form of doing these kind of things. There's actually also Malmo, Microsoft Malmo, I think it's called. And it's the same for Minecraft. So doing AI experiments and AI research, reinforcement experiments in Minecraft. Then my darling AI creativity, there's been some interesting stuff on Autodesk and their generative lab, which has what they call predictive dreamcatcher, launched their experiment in algorithmically designing furniture, like the elbow chair. And these are kind of chairs which are generated in the way they look aesthetically pleasing. Kind of having that as a way for neural networks to be able to understand what, you know, the loss function, as we would call it, or aesthetically pleasing is kind of hard to make an objective function about, but also it has to be strong, etc. Then also Adobe just yesterday or a few days ago had its conference Max, where their CEO also, since they're already focused on AI, but launched Adobe Sensei. Is a weird name, but it's basically turning the Adobe Creative Cloud also more AI powered. And there's some nice videos on some of the stuff we're doing there. And then there's the war on style transfer, where people may know Prisma, the Prisma app people have been playing with. So you snap a picture of something, you can make a picture of the style of something else. And now Google and Facebook, so Google here and Facebook here, they're now promoting their own variants of style transfer. So Facebook launches it on the Messenger platform, so you can Messenger send it to friends. And Google doesn't really know yet where it launches, but Google has actually got something new. So that's kind of interesting. They're not just copying and pasting what already available, but they're what you see here, it's kind of style transfer with multiple styles and stuff. Autonomous vehicles, I won't go very much into detail with, but there's been a lot of developments. Basically, Uber, first of all, was their kind of work case about employment status of drivers. It's interesting. Comma, where George Hotz decided possibly not to go further with its cars. Product, which is basically pre-made car tools. Then Alphabet or Google creates its own standalone self-driving car business, and then also Mercedes-Benz out in the sea. Those for the first time now, a car manufacturer decided that should people or should the passenger or the pedestrians be more important? So the trolley problem, as we would call it. Mercedes-Benz decided that no, it's the passengers who are more important, because that's the kind of people who buy the car, therefore this should be protected. So some stuff computation, that speed of deep learning, yes, does use more GPUs. Amazon now has instances available with new K40 or K80 GPUs. So their previous offering was 4 gigabytes per GPU, now it's 12 gigabytes. So it's of course a bit more expensive, but it's really interesting doing like in the cloud deep learning or machine learning. More hardware, there's been a lot of acquisitions. Apple also started with some mobile GPU stuff. Google continuing with its own chipset. There's been some interesting new data sets. The 8 million YouTube data sets, so 8 million new YouTube tips. So that's for video research, it's very interesting. Image data set, open images, which is the expansion of ImageNet, which used to be 1 million. So almost all the computer vision image breakthroughs have been done on 1 million in this data set. Now there's this 9 million in this data set with one problem that the only thing when you start in your house, so you still have to download them from Flickr, which takes you a month. Then there's also some human dialogue data, which is quite interesting, but it's a bit more complex sentiment thing where you have to kind of guess the last word from a previous context and a sentence. So you have some context or some really human reasoning almost has to be made. And then the new data set on driving data for driving vehicles. Then shortly some of the recent research. So this is for the real research stuff. There's been some advances in initial reasoning, so that using contextual RNN recurrent neural network combined together with generative models, the generative adversarial networks. And they basically try to solve very simple diagrams with children of around 6 years. So that's kind of interesting. There's been some other more work on generative adversarial networks where these are kind of main papers in the last year. And the last one is kind of the newest version. And these are models which are used to generate reference images or generate algorithm or whatever you want to generate. So this recent paper is here. And it's interesting, it can start to generate a quite higher resolution than before. It can start to generate, when you train a model on, let's say, recognized cats or recognize butterflies, you can start to go back to your neural network and say, okay, now generate what you think a butterfly looks like. You get this kind of and it's pretty good, and it's also pretty varied, as you can see. So it apparently has really kind of concepts about bases or rectangles, and understand that there's different rectangles, and it also understand that these different types have to be colored. So before you would get kind of the mean, you would get like one rectangle that kind of combines everything together. And this is one that will break you how you can get more diversity in some senses and diversity. One breakthrough, quite technical, is called deleted convolutions, but a lot of this kind of recent work, like WaveNet, which is audio generation, as well as some other machine translation, so state-of-the-art machine translation right now. It's a kind of way of doing very long-term dependencies in time, so your model has to understand something from very far away, but still being able to do this very computationally very efficient. So before your model would grow exponentially with time, and this is one way to actually start doing that quite efficiently for the first time. And possibly we might even start to see where we're now in machine learning research, where the separation between certain networks, convolutional neural networks, which we train on 2D images or whatever it is, 2D data, and recurrent neural networks, which we train on sequential data, user or text or whatever. Actually, this kind of data convolution, they have potential to start using everything in just convolutional neural networks. It means there might be just one kind of architecture which everybody can use, and it means that maybe advances in research will become
Aspects of the Sublime English Poetry and Painting, 1770 to 8. Blue Lagoon is a 1980 American romance and adventure film directed by Randall Kleisen.
And this is how they look like. Some other interesting parts, the biggest ever neural network, of course, again, out of Google, 128K 40 GPUs training for a month, 36 billion parameters, and then you try to say, okay, if we grow our neural networks bigger and bigger and bigger, how does this affect your accuracy? Does it really do something? And the results are exponentially less, but we still get more with bigger models. So this is interesting, and then again, that is in a kind of interesting approach of mixture of experts. It's not one network, but it's an ensemble of different networks. Then we have neural networks creating neural networks. So these are neural networks which are trained to start to create neural networks with that trained on stuff. So this is kind of where, if you're afraid of Terminator type of things or singularity type of things, this is kind of one step in that direction. I wouldn't say we have none of them very afraid, but other things, DeepMind is obviously a new way of doing the memory, differential neural computers, which are kind of memory type of things which by itself can reason and have some structure in the memory. So it can start to remember not just A and B and C, but it starts to remember the kind of links between them in the memory. And what they trained it on, what it can do is start in terms of the planning. So you can plan it to do on an underground map, and it can start to plan routes. Other things, as you can see in the back of my laptop, it has all kinds of graph things, like graphs are clickable, etc. So I'm quite happy about this, that people started to use graphs inside neural networks to then model much more complex kinds of data relations. So this is a kind of fascinating thing, where you can start to also then have what I understand, it's a linear graph or graph, and it can start to be converted into an embedding which you can use into a neural network. This I'll skip, but it's just some interesting links of some of the recent good articles. usually get virtual. First of all, here you see Joseph, who's also talking today. Second one, actually, Jacques, who will be talking the latest. And then there's some other interesting stuff. So the first three are connected a bit more to what's going on soon, and the other ones are just generally more about deep learning or deep learning startups. Some of the newsletters, if you're interested in AI, so newsletters you can follow. So that's at least some of the good ones. Some podcasts, can be many more added there. So before we put them up, I'll probably put some more stuff here, so you can just take a look at it. Some meetups going on here in Stockholm. The big data group where Ahmad is running was also here. I was here some point. Then the machine learning group Stockholm used to be run by Spotify. Last time it was Chipset. Then the Stockholm Natural Language Processing meetup and the Stockholm.AI meetup, which is run also by Michael, who's also here. Some other resources if you want to follow what's going on in research. Archive Sanity is kind of Archive is the pre-publishing papers website where anybody can pre-publish their papers before being accepted on conference. Something going on here? No? Let's see what that is. Yeah, perfect. So this is a way to kind of find the recent papers and also be able to kind of search more easily for it and just to automatically go through all of them. GitKnife, which is where the damage running, which is we combine research articles with code with data. So when there's research available, there are also code implementations available. This is where people post it. So you have GitHub and Archive combined. Creative AI with that, it's a bit similar. It's also one of these kind of Reddit type of things where anybody who knows anything weird or creative or crazy with AI publishes their projects. State of AI, it's a current survey which is being taken of people who are working in AI. I would really hope you to take the survey and kind of get to know what people are working on, and then overview with this. Some upcoming events. So these are some events going on tomorrow. We have one of the weekly AI hacks. People from here, from Stockholm.AI, are also organizing a weekly. So people meet up. Mostly they go out for some food, they go out to some coffee place, and then they just kind of chatting and going together for meeting. And then there's some other interesting stuff going on. So conferences, and then January 18th we have our second Stockholm.AI event. Then there's also an announcement from Innova. We can also already go here. Which is the Innova SME program is opening December 6th, and there's also the Innova AI in healthcare program, which is using healthcare with AI. So if you do AI in healthcare, then this is where you go. Emails are here, so I'll leave it up, and then we'll ask the first person on the stage. And that's Joseph.